All right, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. This is our Public Safety and Human Services Committee. I have Mr. Frank Farmer and Mr. Joey Russo, and I am Gary. So at that moment, we're going to say a prayer, and would you like to lead us?
Sure. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for keeping us safe. Please be with the people affected by the Table Rock fires breaking out right now. Be with our first responders. Be with everyone in the community out there, and help us best lead the residents of Greenville County, and help us honor them and do whatever we can to become closer to you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We're going to go for the approval of the minutes from the February 24th committee meeting. Could I get a motion?
Motion to approve minutes.
And a second. Everybody approved? Yes, sir.
Aye.
All right. Now, what we're doing, this right here, I've got a lot of input from my constituency as far as the Consolidated Dispatch Center. Just a little background. Everybody was aware of the fire that happened probably 3 or 4 years ago in Charleston. 7 and 9 firemen lost their lives in such tragic line of duty. So the county decided to create a consolidated dispatch. And what a consolidated dispatch is you're taking a lot of the resources from all the different agencies that dispatch, and you put them under one control. So they do the same thing, the same function for the multiple services that are provided. And the object of that is to reduce drop calls. And what do I mean by a drop call? If I get a call in from 911, and then I have to transfer that to another agency or another department that is not in the area where we thought it was in the area, then that call has to be bounced around till we get the call. And once that does, you're losing valuable time to respond. So, and the NFPA standard is 15 to 20 seconds to get a call, okay, and respond. And once that call starts, the clock starts. As soon as you get that call, 911, what's your emergency? The AutoCAD will automatically start tracking that and would dispatch the local service that's required automatically. So I won't have to say, in my case, Pelham, Batesville, or Clear Springs, even though the road that crosses Woodruff Road is separated by 2 different fire services, which I'm sure have an MSA, which is a mutual service agreement. That said, it also, there's a lot of discussion about cost and relinquishing some autonomy from different departments, and I get it. It's something that needs to be discussed, but I think what the bottom line is, it serves the community, and what price would you put on a response for your dependent or your child or your spouse? And that's the bottom line. And again, it would be this is just a discussion, pros and cons, but I think it's a discussion that this county, as we are this point of the spear for first responders, we need to lead that way and surpass any other expectations. And I think we can do it depending on how it goes. And again, we're open for discussion. This is just pros and cons, and I appreciate everyone being here. So that said, would anybody like to speak? If you would, Chief, just state your name.
Yes, sir.
And your service, the station you service.
Yes, sir. My name is Joshua Holtzheimer. I work for the City of Greer Fire Department, and I'm representing the Greenville County Fire Chiefs Association.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council members, and thank you for your time. Do you know what happens when you call 911 throughout Greenville County? Where does the 911 call go? Who answers it? And what takes place after the initial call is taken? Currently in Greenville County, there are 7 PSAPs, or better known as Public Safety Answering Points. They are the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, the City of Greenville Police Department, the City of Greer Police Department, Malden Police Department, Simpsonville, Fountain Inn, and Travelers Rest. These 7 PSAPs received 911 calls from citizens. Greenville County EMS serves as a secondary communication center to the primary public safety answering point I just named. Additional secondary communication centers are Wade Hampton Fire and South Greenville Fire Department. All 911 calls for medical emergencies are transferred to the EMS communication center from one of those PSAPs. So any medical call in Greenville County has had to be transferred and requires 2 people to touch it, which is a delay. Did you know that when we went through our ISO grading in 2019, we got our numbers, and of the 94,000 calls that were transferred for service, 21,000 were transferred in under 30 seconds. That's a delay. So let's say this. You're shopping at Lowe's on West Wade Hampton Boulevard in Greer, and we appreciate that. You witness another shopper collapse, and you call 911. That call is going to be answered by the City of Greer Dispatch Center. They will in turn transfer it to Greenville County EMS. EMS will then take the call in and gather additional information and dispatch appropriate EMS resources. If they need the fire department, they will then in turn, now since we're on the same CAD system, they will spawn that call back to Greer to dispatch fire units. Greer Fire gets on scene and the patient is awakened or does not want to go to the hospital. They notify the City of Greer Dispatch Center. They in turn call EMS back on the phone and cancel EMS. All of these PSAPs are connected with secondary dispatch centers via phone lines, which takes a long time and requires somebody to be able to pick it up. If they're on a 911 call, they may not be able to pick up that phone call. That transmissions go unanswered. So this is another incident that I'm going to read to you that took place in May the 31st of 2021. At 8:16:42, Greenville County Sheriff's Office answered a 911 call stating the house is on fire at 301 Driver Ave. That call lasted 1 minute and 14 seconds and ended up on the call taker saying that they were transferring the call to Parker Fire Department. The identifier for the T-Mobile cell tower on Whitmire Drive was programmed incorrectly, indicated its location is in Parker District. The Greenville County Sheriff's Office initiated the Sheriff's Office call for service, but there are no associated or spawned fire calls. The incident date and time for this call was at 2016-44 or 8/16/44. At 2017, ADT Security called the City of Greer's fire alarm line to request units be dispatched to a residential fire alarm with a homeowner confirming a fire. ADT records indicate they were notified the Pelham Batesville Fire Department. The call taker obtained the address and call type and initiated the call immediately, as trained to do so. At 2018-14, the call taker realized the appropriate jurisdiction was the Gant Fire District. The call taker was still on the line with the alarm company and told them they were going to transfer them to Greenville County EMS Fire Dispatch because Greer does not dispatch for Gant. At 2018, South Greenville Dispatch answers a call from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. They had tried to transfer someone from 301 Driver Ave to South Greenville, but they had been disconnected. The Sheriff's Office gives South Greenville Dispatch the call information. At 2018, the South Greenville Fire Dispatcher recommends and commits the trucks from Gant, Parker, and Belmont to the structure fire. At 2019, a Greer dispatcher transfers ADT to Greenville County EMS, and the call was answered by an EMS dispatcher. At 2019, ADT Security was transferred by the EMS dispatch to South Greenville. At 2019, a Greer telecommunicator canceled the call and has been created, and based on the information she took from ADT, it cleared the response. At 2019-50, Greenville County Sheriff's Office calls the original caller back. The Sheriff's Office telecommunicator asks questions about still people being in the house. And at 21, the South Greenville Dispatch contacted the communications supervisor to explain. They got the call reopened, and they dispatched units. So I say all that to say this. At 2029, from 2016 to 2029, a Gant fire engine finally arrives on scene at this fire. These are just examples of calls that have happened in Greenville County, and the fact these various PSAPs operate independently, leading to inefficiencies and duplication of services and potential challenges in coordinated response across multiple jurisdictions. Greenville County does operate on the same CAD system or computer-aided dispatch, an 800 megahertz radio system, granted on different channels. The Consolidated Dispatch Center would streamline the 911 call answering and dispatch processing, potential merging these separate PSAPs into one centralized facility that serves all emergency services across the county, could improve response time, reduce redundancy, and provide better coordinated during emergency services. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? No? Thank you, Chief. Would anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? No? Okay. We'll go on. Well,
Can you, I know you had done a opening statement, but have you put together a list of positives and negatives that maybe to summarize?
I had a few. Like I said, I wanted to open the area for discussion. Some of the positives would be lower response times. We could get the automated system would pretty much drop exactly what pinpoint the service needed and where location, which would alleviate a lot of the drop calls, not really drop calls, but bounce calls. As the chief said, it would streamline that. Some of the drawbacks that I've looked at and researched is, it would be a learning curve. It would be dispatch would be all under one area, one control. For instance, we have, I believe, 15 dispatch cubicles at the EOC. I believe there's 12 at the law enforcement center. So, and I'm not saying it's something there. It's just the discussion from my area that was asked. I've got over 62% of people asking me about it, and that's why the one thing we put on there. So it would be a collaboration between law enforcement, and there's some drawbacks from the municipalities, where some municipalities may feel like they may not be part of the servicing pie or connection, but so it's just information gathering and just kind of see where we're at and just to get this out in discussion. So that's why we did it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else?
I got something.
Yes, sir, Sheriff.
So, sorry I came in late.
No,
I didn't
no,
know
you're
about
fine.
this meeting till the last minute, and I was in another meeting at the DEU. But I understand y'all are kind of exploring this idea, and you have a lot of this has gone on for several years. I've been the sheriff here for 5 years, and we've had multiple conversations with fire departments who are interested in this. I think, from a personnel standpoint, I understand a lot of them, just like us, may have trouble staffing their communication center. You have a couple of municipalities here. I've talked to Chief Thompson, and none of them want to give up their communication center to go to a consolidated or even a unified communication center. There are instances where things happen. Just heard the major mention one as I walked in. I think it was 16 minutes from maybe start to finish before they got an engine out there. So we're not opposed, certainly, to providing better service, but when you talk about the fear factor that's involved with employees, whether it be Greenville County, Greenville City, EMS, whatever the case may be, I don't even know how many PSAPs we have total in the county, but I know it's a lot of them. If you talk about a cost saving and all those things, I'm not sure we're all on the same page where that really saves a cost. Does it cut down on time? I think there's certainly a lot more to be done on that. But from a staffing standpoint, no matter what we decide to do, we have people who went to work at the City of Greer to work for the City of Greer, people who came to work at the Sheriff's Office to work for the Sheriff's Office, or came to work for EMS to work for EMS, not to dispatch or have the opportunity to dispatch multiple things that they're just very unfamiliar with. And from talking to our people, as well as some EMS folks, it brings a lot of fear into what changes may come. So I would just caution the Public Safety Board on really, putting some time in like you're doing here. This is for public input. department input and all those things. But certainly caution you on as many problems as we have from a staffing standpoint. We certainly don't want to create a bit of a tidal wave to people pulling the plug and leaving us to go somewhere else where they don't have to deal with these issues. It's budget time. People are asking for pay increases and wanting to know what's going on with, where are they going to be working out of in 2 or 3 years? What's the plan for a new facility or whatever the case may be? So I understand, all too well, there's a lot to be looked at going forward. But when you talk about bringing these resources together, I ask you to take into consideration the people it's going to affect the most. And that's the people sitting at the consoles, whether they wear a fire uniform, EMS uniform, law enforcement uniform, whatever the case may be, who they work for now, they're tied to those agencies. So please take that into consideration as we have future meetings and discussing what the plan will be for the county. And, how much input, how much buy-in do we have from our municipalities who we work with very well? I think we probably need to look at maybe having a retreat to discuss that with the police chiefs, fire chiefs, EMS folks, maybe bring them together in this conversation to air that out, to at least make these meetings a little bit more condensed, if you will. And or consolidated is probably the right term since we're using that one today. And again, I know this is very early on in this process, and I think it would be very neglectful on our part not to have these discussions, but I don't know. Have y'all taken your trip to Charleston? Did y'all look at that? Did y'all?
We had to have a reschedule.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I've been down there and looked at that when I first became sheriff, and I know there were some agency issues somehow down there, so I don't know how that's working today for them. But as you take that trip and bring that information back, maybe have those stakeholders in a meeting, public meeting for sure, but to at least get that information out and get input from people right here from all agencies.
Absolutely.
From every arm. So thank you for your time.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you, Sheriff. And let me just say this for the record, too. This was done to open the discussion. There's nothing made, but the only way, this building didn't get created without discussion. Okay, and there was a lot of fear when this building was, shovels were stuck in the ground. Just like there's going to be a lot of fear when they come to ask to support law enforcement, there's going to be some fear. But you're going to know that you're going to get 100% from this committee to support your budget requests. Okay? Because everyone touches law enforcement and EMS and emergency services in this county. So rest assured with that, and I appreciate your time. And I think you understand, with all due respect, that the only fear is what the questions are asked that we can't answer, and that's why we're having this. But know that we are here to support you, law enforcement, and first responders 100% of the time. So I don't care who hears it, where they hear it, that's said out loud. And I appreciate your time, Sheriff. Yes, sir. But ensure them. And government grows, government shifts. It's an amoebic process, which means it will move, adjust, everything. And you know what? I hope if it ever comes to fruition down the road, they know they got a job for a first responder, whether it's with the sheriff or fire, whatever it evolves into. But know that we got them 100%.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Would anybody else like a comment? Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I didn't really come here planning to speak, but I will just second what the sheriff said. By the way, I'm Matt Hamby. I'm the police chief in the city of Greer.
Yes, sir.
So I really do hope that this process, if there is any traction whatsoever, that we absolutely I do plead with you to invite the municipalities in so that we can discuss this in a much deeper, broader, comprehensive way, because I do believe that over my many years watching other counties who have shifted from not consolidated to consolidated, it has not been a really great experience across the board. I think there's 2 counties that I can think of off the top of my head, Charleston County, York County. There were some consolidation efforts. Some of the agencies probably had to back out of it after it started for various reasons, and I can't speak on their behalf, of course, but I do think that needs to be researched, especially if the Charleston example is something you want to look at. Please check with some of the municipalities as well, because I believe there was some major adjustments that had to be made by the municipalities to accommodate. There's a lot of different things that have to be handled through the law enforcement agencies, such as the NCIC terminals and the customer service levels. And there's a lot of issues that are deeper than I think we have time for here today. But I just would request that you offer that opportunity for us later on down the road if you need to keep talking about this discussion. So that's all I
Thank you,
have.
Chief. Yes,
Thank
sir,
you.
and I appreciate that. And
Yes, sir.
again, the invitation was there by putting it on the agenda. So, like I said, you can't cook an egg till you crack it. And probably not a very good analogy, but that was the invitation on the agenda, and I'm glad you showed up, and I appreciate your input. And go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had a question for Sheriff Lewis. Sheriff, what is your biggest hurdle that you're facing when you're trying to hire people for your call center?
Pay. I mean,
figured.
Retaining people is more of an issue than recruiting people. We certainly don't have as large a pool as we did maybe 4 or 5 years ago to pick from, and people have other opportunities to go to work other places for a lot more money. We even tried to give up 12 positions, deputy positions, to give our communications folks down there a raise, but it would put them in the middle of a pay bracket to give up that budget money to do that. So that was last year. And so obviously, when you can go to work other places and make $2.50, $3 more an hour, and you're talking about feeding your family, and you mentioned the cracked eggs, those are only getting more expensive.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, the bottom line is people who have been here really between that, just say 3-year and 5-year mark are looking, they're already certified, they already possess the skills to go to another agency and make more money, maybe a change in schedule. We've even looked at ways to possibly facilitate a daycare for most of our folks that work in communications on a 12-hour shift, because during COVID and virtual learning and schools and all those things that was going on, it became a real problem for those folks that had both people working in the home. So we tried several things. We remodeled the communication center to try to make it a little bit more comfortable down there. New equipment. We got new consoles to make it a little bit more comfortable for them to stand as they want to, or sit as they need to, or whatever the case may be. So, but it all comes down to, honestly, it just comes down to dollars and cents and what people make. And we fight that on the uniform patrol side, the uniform side, as well as our civilian side. So, and I've talked to every police chief in the county. They may not have the number of people we have, but for Greer or Fountain Inn or Travelers Rest to lose one communication specialist, it doesn't hurt us as bad. We may have 8 down there working where they only have 2. So that may be one phone line that gets delayed by being answered. So it's very difficult for sure in this day and age to recruit those folks. I don't really know anything. I can't speak on behalf of the fire departments on recruiting from a civilian side to a certified fireman side. But that's kind of the bottom line of that. So,
Awesome. Appreciate it, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
man.
thank you.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak? Okay, again, let me reiterate, the culture to support law enforcement, first responders has landed, okay? And that's all we can do as a committee, is we're going to try to knock it out of the park for you, because emergency, first responders, the sheriff, it touches everybody in Greenville County. And I'll leave it at that. Okay. What's next on the agenda? Firearm signs on county buildings. Would you like that?
You had to do it when all law enforcement's
Yeah,
here,
and I
didn't
said,
you?
I waited till they all showed up.
I have filed let's call them a bill. I don't even know what you call them at the county. We call them bills. Basically to standardize what a person on staff is able to put up, trying to standardize the signs with what the law says. And noticed been getting, first of all, calls and everything over the years at the convenience centers and at the landfill mostly about signs that are very vague about being able to carry according to the law. Says something like, please, we ask you to please leave your firearms in the car, that kind of thing. And so my purpose was to try to just get a clear on paper policy that we would promulgate as council that staff can follow. So there's no question. We all know there's statutory signs. Basically, they're out on buildings. You can't go inside buildings with concealed carry. Now it's open carry. I had brought this up to the director of landfill. I think it was in the same room not too long ago, and she said, well, the employees feel uncomfortable if somebody's carrying there. Well, that's not the standard. The standard is, are they lawful? Are they being lawful? If they're doing anything unlawful, if they're brandishing it, if they're causing trouble, starting fights, assaulting people, well, there's a law against that. But we're just talking about our normal citizens who are used to carrying and just not being confused by what signs are saying. So that's the whole purpose. And if we're voting on it, I'd urge that you vote in favor of that. Then it'll go to council. We'll have more opportunity to discuss it.
So you want to make a motion there?
Yeah.
Is there?
Did you have- you go
got
ahead,
a
go
question,
ahead.
anybody?
Or
Yeah.
do you have exactly like what the statutory sign says though? Do we have the language on that?
It's not in there, but the way and by the way, there is an exemption in it for if there is a parade or any kind of what the law says. There's a parade or like a festival, then they can erect these outdoor signs. But basically, outdoor signs under the current law are not applicable for anywhere that I know of on county, other than if there's a parade going on or a festival. Then the county can erect temporary signs for that period of time, very limited by what the statutes say. But the sign for a building is in the statutes, and it's just a very clear specification. It would just say, stay out of the buildings, and it's one sign. And in fact, the legislative purpose when they enacted the law was for uniformity. But I don't think it has to reference that exact. It just says the sign. If you want, I can add the dimensions and all that.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if, I'm certainly in favor of just making it standard so we don't have a bunch of different signs, but I don't know if Attorney Antley can speak to what the actual verbiage of the statutory sign is. Now, I know it's changed with open carry and stuff like that. I just didn't know if that's what we're putting on the ordinance or whatever we're saying, this is what's going to be said, this is what's going to be stated on the signs.
I don't have that committed to memory, but if y'all have any specific questions about the ordinance itself, I would say that most appropriately, probably we would want to move into an executive session if you wanted to receive any legal advice about it is as written. That'd be up to the committee. But otherwise.
So I'm just asking, are we just saying the statutory, whatever the statutory language is that's going to be the required signage? Or what are we?
Yes, it says that it's the county policy that no staff administrator will erect any sign other than the statutory sign. So it does reference a statute.
I can read it.
Yeah, if you.
Yeah, I pulled it up here. I couldn't remember all this by memory, but it just the excuse me. The policy is that it is the policy directive of Greenville County Council that, with the exception of statutory sign, it references the South Carolina Code of Laws, 2131-235 Bravo. Placed at the entry door of government buildings, no sign, poster, bulletin board, memorandum shall be placed or allowed to remain upon any Granville County property or premises. It is the policy directive of council, with the exception of the statutory sign. In other words, the legal size sign, right? And it'd be standard, because there are different facilities with the little, almost bumper sticker like, and then some with the. But yeah, so that would be the thing. We can hold it for more discussion, or you want to make a motion?
In consideration that we'll have a chance at second reading to amend it, which it needs amendment to add parade and all that in there. I just asked that we pass it out of this committee, and then the public's welcome to come comment on it in council. Yes. So I don't know if I can motion it my own. I don't know how that works.
Mr. Attorney, he can motion his own, can he?
The only one who can't motion it would be you unless you
Correct.
press the gavel.
No,
Okay.
it's fine.
I motion that we pass this ordinance through this committee and move it on to second reading at council.
Okay, sir, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes on to council. All right, let's see here, what's next on? All right,
Can I ask a question of the fire while we're here?
absolutely.
If I may, our administrator has indicated that our county has taken over education on paramedic studies out of Greenville Tech. And my understanding was that was something offered to your, a fireman could do that.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm
I
sorry.
do need to interrupt, that this is not on the agenda, and I think a discussion of this would put us into an issue with the Freedom of Information Act. And it's not on the agenda anywhere for this meeting, and so it's not publicly noticed for this particular meeting. I don't want to stand on anybody, but I also want to make sure that we don't get in a ditch here.
No, I understand that, so that wouldn't classify under the dispatch center call discussion that we had about EMS, EMTs earlier?
It didn't sound like that's where it was headed. If it is, I apologize. If it fits within there, you could probably pigeonhole it there, but I thought that it's.
Okay, yes, sir, I think we can pigeonhole there just for a question or two. Would that be safe? I mean, you gave me the pigeonhole option.
The rule ahead of time before they know the question, so I don't know.
Okay,
I can withdraw it with this statement that if anybody has information, I'm just interested in learning more about whether we are providing an avenue for firefighters to get education to be a paramedic at some kind of advantageous tuition or that's all. So you can see me outside, like the girl said.
Yeah.
Meet me outside.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll strike that then, I guess, Mr. Attorney. So, but thank you. All right, any other questions? No?
I'm sorry, it's catch me outside. That's what it is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.